Happy February. I felt like I wanted to have a little chat today because as we were starting this new month, I realized that we're kind of in a midpoint of this winter season. So I thought that maybe I would do the same thing like I did in July, like a mid-year check-in, that we would do like a mid-season check-in, because I don't know how you're feeling as we're starting this new month. But in the past week or so, I've already had that nagging feeling of that I'm behind, that some of the things that I had thought I'd be further along, or things that I thought I would have been more consistent in this new year, I already feel like I'm already feeling like I've let some things slip. And I know I'm not alone in that. And what's interesting is, as I started this year, I had shared that I wasn't moving into 2025, hitting the ground running per se. I really was trying to take a step back and take my time, just not move quickly into all the things that I had already been doing, but really taking some time to kind of ask myself if some of the things I was supposed to continue, and if so, how, maybe a different way. And so I feel like I have done that, although it has not been as easy as I thought it would be. I was just talking to a group this morning about that, at the end of the year, as we were heading into the new year, I felt like I was ready for this exhale and this season of rest. And so we got through the holidays. I felt that. I felt the little slowing down. And I enjoyed it for a few days, but then I could feel my mind moving ahead at a quicker pace than I had intended. And so I would stop myself from moving ahead, from taking the thoughts I was having and running full steam ahead. So even though I feel like I was moving into the year with more intention, still, it's like life continues to move at the pace that it moves at. And it's just so easy to just fall right back in line with the way we have been living. And that's exactly why I wanted to take the pause and the rest at the beginning of the year, because I was starting to sense that within myself. And I've talked about this before. I don't want to live life on autopilot. I don't want to continue in things that have run its course, or seasons of change, and I'm still hanging on to something, or just because it's become normal for me, I've continued it. And so I love to stop in different seasons and just evaluate. So even though I was moving into this new year with intention and not just picking up everything that I had been doing and really evaluating and determining what I needed to continue and what maybe needed to be tweaked a little bit, that I was continuing, still, even in that, life just has a way of reeling us back in. And I don't want to be someone that lives life on autopilot. And I've talked about this all the time, because I think it is just so easy for us to always revert back to this normal set point. And it really takes intention. And I think that is why I'm so passionate and so committed to this process of getting still, this rhythm and this practice that I talk about, because I feel like I can't not live on autopilot without it. I just constantly need this reflection time. And I guess as I was thinking about it being the middle of winter and we're entering a new month, the second month of the year, and I was already kind of feeling some of these feelings rising up, I was like, okay, we need to nip this in the bud, and we need to stop and evaluate, because it's like I don't want to feel negative about where I'm at. And so when I feel that creeping up, which just can bring shame and then keep us in a negative cycle, that's not where I want to be. And I know that's not where God wants any of us to be. So I thought, okay, need to reframe this. So let's do a midwinter check-in. So if you can relate to what I'm saying, then I hope that something will be helpful. So I kind of sat down and was kind of trying to write and come up with some questions and like a framework to kind of help me ask some questions and just kind of process some things to keep moving forward and not get stuck and not feel like I'm behind, because I'm not behind. You're not behind. We're not behind. So here's one thing I want to read that I wrote down that kind of puts things in the perspective that I want to have. I'm reframing this time as a natural pause rather than a point of pressure. Okay, that's what I want to approach things from, of not from a place of shame or condemnation, but we're human and we are navigating this life the best that we can. And so in this moment of reflection, it's a pause. It's a pause for me to stop and reflect, and not a point of pressure like I'm doing something wrong and I got to fix something. Nature itself shows us the wisdom of these pause points. Trees don't apologize for their bare branches. I mean, right now in the season of winter, so many of us can look around and see bare branches. They are not ashamed that right now in this season, their branches are bare. Nope. They are right where they need to be. And they're not going to apologize. This is what they are supposed to be producing in this season. Bare branches do not apologize. And seeds don't rush their underground transformations. We have to be okay with navigating the different seasons of life. And just as I said, walking into this year, how I wanted to kind of do it slowly, I need to be okay with that. And I have found once again that I'm not okay with that, that there's just so much that's tied. I don't know if it's tied to identity. That's the things I'm like kind of processing, of the not being able to being able to stop and not be so consumed with the doing. And the doing's beautiful and it's needed, and there's such beauty in that. And I feel called to do that, just as I know that there's so many things that you feel called to, and that God has gifted you to put your hand to bless others. We need that. But there's also beauty and there's goodness and nourishment in being able to rest and being able to be nourished and to be able to stop and to be okay. And life doesn't stop. So we have to figure out how we can find those moments of refreshing and filling our cup before trying to pour out and serve those around us. And so I don't know what that looks like for you, because this is what I love about connecting with God, our Creator, that none of us, that it's not going to look the same for all of us, because we're all wired differently. So I can talk about how my soul is nourished and how I find refreshment. And you might hear that and think, that sounds horrible. That's not refreshing to me at all. And there's different ways that you find that. And I love that, because we're all different and God meets each of us right where we're at. And it's like, that's what's so peaceful, I think, about spending time connecting with God and being in his presence, being aware of his presence. It feels like coming home, because it is coming home. We were God's idea. He's the one that formed and designed us. And so that is the beauty and the peace that we find when we do stop and we are aware that he is speaking to us and he's leading us and he desires to do that. But we have to get still and quiet the noise and the distractions to be able to hear that. So I have made a little list that I will drop it in the description. It's a midwinter check-in that you can download, print out, whatever, look at it. It's a little sheet. midwinter check-in, and I put reflect and realign, because that's really the way I'm looking at this. Okay, I want to reflect on where I'm at right now, and then I want to realign. I don't want to beat myself up that I kind of already feel behind, because I'm not behind. This is where I'm at in this season, and I want to realign with where I feel like God is leading me. So I wanted to share this in case you're feeling some of these same feelings, and instead of beating yourself up, you just want to reflect on where you're at and realign. So I want to talk about first growth-oriented reflection. I want you to think about what small victories have you experienced just since this year began that you might be overlooking. Because I bet that even though you might feel like you aren't where you would love to be, that there are some small victories that you have already experienced in this year that you might be overlooking. Because here's the thing. I think that we set our sights on this big goal and something out here. But to get there, it's like there's all these other small victories that we need to master to get to this. And so sometimes we feel frustrated because we're not seeing this big end result, when there are these small victories along the way that as we grow and mature, we're achieving these things that are good and they're beautiful. And don't discount those. Those are good, and you need to celebrate those. So look for that. What small victories have you experienced since the year that you might be overlooking? Next thing, what challenges have actually been teaching you something valuable? So you might be feeling like, okay, I had these intentions at the beginning of the year, but I feel like I keep bumping into these different challenges. Notice those. What are those challenges, and what are they teaching you? Because maybe it's what we're going to learn as we master and we overcome those challenges that get us to where we ultimately want to go. So what are those challenges, and what are they actually teaching you? Next thing to ask yourself is, how might your initial goals transform into more sustainable intentions? How might your initial goals transform into more sustainable intentions? That kind of ties into the first thing I mentioned. You might set this goal way out here, but there can be some more sustainable intentions along the way that are very transformative and that will actually change us to be the person that end result requires, because it's in us. Those things are in us. If we desire those things, and God, I believe, has given us those desires, then we have what it takes to allow those things to grow and be developed within us. So along the way, there's going to be some sustainable intentions that are going to be developed in us that are going to make that initial goal that we set. We don't have to wait for that. We're going to be transformed along the way. Next, I want to talk about hope nurturing perspectives, because I think we might need some hope when we kind of start to feel discouraged and like we're already missing it. And we need to remind ourselves that when we're in a winter season, that winters don't last forever. And just as these little buds form long before spring, growth often is developed in the dark, and it's not visible to everybody around. And sometimes it's not even visible to us that what is being developed in us during this time. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean that we're not growing and that we're not developing. So consider using the wintering period as nature does, for essential rest that we all need, and for internal work and gathering energy for future growth. And that's really what I was pursuing as this year started. It's like I want to put the energy that I have towards the things that I need to be putting them towards. And so I felt like there was some internal work that I needed to focus on. And instead of just having thoughts and then moving in different directions, of really just stopping and slowing down and allowing that internal work to develop and grow some things that would be gathering energy for future growth and a future season. And that's so necessary, because there's no point in getting to some end result if we have not matured and grown in the process. Then it's not even going to be sustainable when we get what we think we want, because we have not developed the character and done all the inner work to be the person that when we get there, that's who we are. It makes it so much more beautiful. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is practical ways to renew hope. Okay, so what's that look like? I need to have more hope and to reflect, and I'm realigning, but I feel like I need to stir some hope. So here's an idea of something you could do. Create a winter wisdom journal, which means grabbing some paper, grabbing a composition book, and writing down just all throughout your day when something pops in your mind of something you're learning and something that's being revealed to you, write it down. It's your winter wisdom journal. It's all the things that you're learning right now, the things that are being developed in you in this season that might not be visible to everybody else around, but it's so needed and it's growing you. Document it. Document the small daily moments of beauty and growth in your life. Okay, another thing, established cozy rituals. This is what I love about autumn and winter seasons. It just invites us into coziness, but doesn't just happen. We have to be intentional about it. So establish some cozy rituals instead of fighting against this winter season and resting and regrouping and growing internally. Create the atmosphere to nurture that. So I don't know if you're a coffee drinker, a hot tea drinker, whatever it is, get a mug. If you don't have one, go get yourself a mug that feels good to hold and that you like to look at it and it just makes you happy. I have those mugs. I have my favorite mugs, and fill it up with whatever you like. And if you don't like coffee or tea, then fill it up with sparkling water, whatever it is you like. If you like milk, whatever you like, fill up your favorite little mug and get cozy. Light a candle, light a fire, whatever it is that feels cozy and homey to you, a blanket, whatever it is. Get cozy and just implement those rituals of getting still and enjoying the season. And instead of fighting against it, settle into it and allow the season to do the work within you of whatever it's inviting you to. Surrender to the season to get everything that it's wanting to develop in you and pull out of you, because spring is on the horizon. It's next month. In the middle of next month, we're going to be welcoming the season of spring. And so what we're doing right now is going to affect how we are walking into spring. And I don't know about you, but by the time spring comes, I'm going to be looking for some blooms and some flourishing. So I think it's important that we stop and we reflect, we realign with the desires and the dreams that we have and that we feel called to, whatever that looks like for you, because it's important. And it's not only important to you, it's important to those around you, because each of us needs what each of us brings. So if any of this resonated with you, then check out the description and I'll have a link where you can download the sheet and you can do your midwinter check-in and reflect and realign with the plans and the purposes, the dreams and the desires that your creator put within you. And I am cheering you on, and thanks for watching. And I'm going to check back and see how you're doing, and we'll talk soon.